Welcome to this session about the cross-border labor market in the Fehmarn Belt region. My name is Jesper Bø, and I'm a business journalist at the local newspaper Lolland Falsters Folketidende. For the next 1 hour, I will try to take you through a very interesting program with a very sharp focus on the Interreg project Reball region in balance, which is about the Fehmarn Belt region and vocational education and employment across national borders in the region. In this session, some of the speakers will speak in their mother tongue, typically in Danish and German, but it will, for you, the audience, be translated into English by our translator, Ralf Marquardt. You will also have the possibility to ask some of the speakers questions in the chat, which my colleague, Sarah Torslund Roholt, will manage. But first of all, I will introduce Dr. Hofmeister from IHK to Lübeck, who will talk a little bit about experiences from the project Boost to be taken forward in Reball. Mr. Dr. Hofmeister, the screen is yours.
When we, together with SELF and the job centers, considered what can we do when the Fehmarn Belt fixed link is coming. We used to think it was a bridge at the time. Now it's going to be a tunnel, but we agreed at an early stage we don't want to participate in the bridge building, literally. We want to do something to prepare ourselves for the cooperation once the bridge, now it's the tunnel, has come into existence. Now, that is why we made the educational office in the first place, where we try to offer education programs for young people in Denmark and Germany. So theoretically, they have the education in Denmark and the practical part in Germany. And it has worked quite well in recent years. Round about 150 young Danes have we had who did a long-term or short-term internship in Germany, and more than 300 pupils. We've had a very short exchange in Germany, only for 2 or 3 days. And we also had a lot of apprentices from Germany who went to Denmark to do an internship of up to 4 weeks there. And that was very important for both sides. Now, why? Why do we focus on vocational training and apprenticeship? Well, very simple. When later there will be even closer links between Germany and Denmark via the fixed link, then it should not only be concrete and a tunnel that links two countries together. No, we want people to know who lives on the other side. How do they think? What are their attitudes? And that's when we said, hey, the apprentices are the correct means of transportation from Germany to Denmark and vice versa, to provide transportation of knowledge. And of course, the private enterprises are also part in this game. So we can develop connections between the companies. They can build up relations between each other. And once the fixed link is there, they will be able to cooperate much better with each other. We believe this is a good option. This is a good opportunity to make a connection in the heads and brains of the people as well. During the project, we also had the vocational schools, the training schools, the job centers on the German side included. So we have grown quite into a great or big group within the framework of Reball. But before it was Boost, I think. Yes, exactly. Boost, now it's rebalance. So we were able to get a few things done. And I'm always very happy to be in touch with our Danish friends. Let me see a few words about some highlights we have experienced. What always was good and nice when meeting in Denmark, there was always plenty of food. And in the young cooks and the young apprentices in a meeting, restaurant, pupils, they served the 3-course meals. It was one of the most beautiful things we've done with each other. I can really say that. What we also have done is, let me say it in a different way. This internship they did an internship. Danes did an internship in Germany, and then they had their exam in Denmark. But we recognized it, so they would be able to enter into a job in Germany as well. And I remember a young female cook, Maj-Britt Sørensen, and she did her internship at Timmendorfer Strand. And they would have loved her to stay. She wanted to go back to Denmark, but she did really well in her apprenticeship. And what was remarkable is Danish TV showed an interest in her. They wanted to make a feature on her. And through Maj-Britt, we were on Danish TV right after TV-avisen with our project later on. That was awesome. Then we had a young man, an electrician. He did very well. Magnus Jørgensen, who was at the department store Stolz, a retailer, and he was very well received. The Germans loved him as well because he played in the Femern soccer team. So, oh yeah, let me mention one more. Christopher Littledore, he did so well that he got an A grade in his exam. So that shows the system works. Despite all cultural and linguistic borders, the theoretical part is done in Denmark, the practical part is done in Germany, and in the exams, everything is combined together. And where we have qualified and skilled professionals who can act as ambassadors for our ideas in Germany and in Denmark, and they promote the thing, and including the Danish and German companies who have partners on the other side, then there can only be a good outcome. And now we expect that we will continue the work and even do more and have even more activities once the tunnel is there. We will be able to interest many more young people to go along that path. These are my words, and I'm very excited to hear the coming discussion. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hofmeister, for this introduction. Now we will turn to a couple of short presentations about the background and the future for the Vocational Training Office. The presentations will be made by Per B. Grønning, Job Center Manager in Lolland Kommune, and Kim Norman, Director at SELF. So the word is yours.
Thank you, Jesper. I'm allowed to speak in Danish, so I will turn over to Danish. I 2011 sad jeg i Lübeck for øvrigt sammen med Dr. Ulrik Hofmeister og min kollega Markus Dusch og projektchefen her fra SELF, Svend Erik Jessen. Og pludselig sad Markus Dusch og Ulrik Hofmeister og talte om, at de havde over 1000 ledige praktikpladser.
We have over 2,000 internship jobs, and we can't find people. And I said, we have hundreds of people in Denmark, but no internships. So we started developing our idea. Why don't we make some exchange? That was the basic idea. So we started discussing it. I'm not saying it was easy, and I would like to say 1,000 thanks, as we say in German, to Mr. Hofmeister for his dedication and the Industry and Handelskammer's dedication, but also legislation-wise, which is very different from country to country. They have been of great help, but due to Mr. Dr. Hofmeister's entrepreneurship, we succeeded to have our educational office in Lübeck. What did we do? Well, we agreed we need somebody who can give Danish apprentices a good reception in Germany, because learning German in Denmark is a bit of a challenge, to put it mildly, for many young people, not because they have to talk German. Let them go to Germany, they'll find out they can speak German, but as long as they haven't been there, it's a challenge. The next challenge, you have to convince the mother as well, the parents. Sometimes you could even convince mommy, have your child go to Germany and make an apprenticeship there. Now in 2016, we held an opening of what we call our educational office in Lübeck, and that is a cooperation between SELF, the two municipalities, Lolland and Guldborg Sand, and IHK, HK, and Arbeitsagentur Lübeck. So we try to help find internships for young people, the internships that Dr. Ulrich Hofmeister talked so much about, and I couldn't agree more with Mr. Hofmeister. This is the right path to create a Fehmarn Belt region. The right path is to make young people not to see it as a barrier, but to see it as a border that can be crossed, even though it's 18 kilometers wide. We've succeeded so far, and I love seeing it. I love seeing our efforts having borne some fruit, and it has been beneficial to many people. So this is the way to create a Fehmarn Belt labor market. What's your opinion on the future, Kim? Well, I will tell you in 2 seconds. My name is Kim Norman, and I'm the manager of Self, and I will speak in my native tongue, Danish. I can only pick up on what Per Beck said, because I want to talk about the common vocational office in Lübeck. Now, Per, he talked about the history behind it all in recent years. I would like to focus on the future. And please allow me not to stick too much to facts. A lot of what I'm saying is qualified guessing, wishing, wishful thinking. I take the liberty to dream a little bit about our role for the future and the role of the educational office in Lübeck. So Germany is by far the biggest neighbor we have and one of our biggest trade partners in the first place. So it's only natural that our private enterprises, our workforce, our young people, every once in a while have a look to the south, okay? And it is my clear impression that young people who have been trained in Denmark, academics or vocational trainees, are very valued in Germany. That is my impression. Now, talking a bit about the future, you know, us, we here, who are in cooperation in this education office, we who are partners to the Rebelt project, and before that, the Boost project, which Mr. Hofmeister also mentioned, we have been able to practice several years, not because we lack practicing, but the Fehmarn Belt link will bring down our traveling time to 10 minutes, right? So it could look a bit like this. It could be a kind of central node for a bridgehead for consultancy, a place to contact if people want to go from north to south, south to north. It could be a meeting center, especially when it talks about job, education, and housing in the future. It may become true once in a while. And I would like to say I'm dreaming of that, and I'm saying it on behalf of all, although I haven't had permission to do it. But I'm saying it anyway. It could be a very good future for our common education office.
Yes, I am.
Okay, very nice, Johanna. I will start with you. You are have been the last 3 months, as I said, at Autophone as a fine mechanic and worked there. You have been there for 3 months. Just tell us, how did you get in contact with Autophone in Nakskov?
I actually went the way over I worked with the Handwerkskammer in Germany, and on their website I read about this internship exchange thing that you could do with worldwide. But I was asking them if they have any specific companies where they already sent people, and as an example, they sent me the link to Autophone. And then the Handwerkskammer worked together with Self, and Self talked to Autophone. And so it was organized in a very specific line, but that's how I got to know about them.
And how has the last 3 months been for you to be in Nakskov and work in Nakskov in Autophone?
Interesting and different than I imagined. Of course, there was the challenge with Corona and keeping up to date with all the Corona regulations, and things aren't really open. And then, of course, at work you have to test, and there's rules and regulations you have to follow. But other than that, it was very nice to get a different, first of all, a different view of another work environment, but then especially like the Danish view of it. So I got to see how they work, what they produce, what all of the departments' tasks are. I got to take a look into those departments, and I also found out that I quite enjoy the Danish system and the Danish way of working. It's a bit more relaxed, kind of, or not as it's kinda more open.
But have you experienced any problems? What can you say? Problems with the language, the culture, or has it been very open for you to be in Autophone?
There weren't any language barriers or problems or any of that. And there's some foreign workers at Autophone which speak English anyway. Most of the people I work with speak fluent English, and if someone does not speak English or German, some of them do, it wasn't a problem to get around or communicating. They were very nice and very open and very direct, very communicative. They welcomed me very nicely and made sure I understood exactly what I was working with, and that I would always feel good working there too.
If you would give an advice for other young people who want to do an internship in Denmark from Germany, what advice would you give?
That they do not have to organize everything alone. It may seem like a very daunting task to want to go abroad to work or do an internship or get some more experience, but there's many organizations like the IHK or the Handwerkskammer, especially in Germany, that can help you organize those things, that will be happy if you go to them and ask them about stuff, and they will be happy to name you some companies or help you with whatever you need organizing all those things. It will give you advice on how this whole application process works. And then of course there's always Erasmus, so the EU-wide organization that makes it easier for you to get abroad. So if you've got something specific in mind, where you want to go and what you want to do, especially in Denmark, of course it's easier, but it was very, very easy to organize everything because I got so much help from every direction.
Thank you very much, Johanna Jynke. I just have to hear if we have Stina Borgström from Autophone with us now.
Jeg på. Kan du høre mig?
Yes, I'm on. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Stina, and I will just ask you, what kind of company is Autophone? Very briefly, can you just tell us that?
Vi en produktionsvirksomhed.
We are a production company. We manufacture pickups for rack recorders. We have rubber production. We do little rubber rings, O-rings for the medicine industry. Autophone.
I got interrupted, but I want to just ask you, what was it like to have Johanna as an intern in your company?
Det har været fantastisk.
It was awesome. It was just fantastic. Johanna, she really digged in and got into it and was courageous, and she gave so much good input. She's been very inspirational to us, and at the same time, yeah, while she was here, she was a great.
She's been an inspiration for you.
Yeah.
Absolutely, an inspiration, I can only say.
I'll try to ask you again, how has she been an inspiration for you in your company?
Well, in the sense that she came up with new ideas. She's been very open-minded. She's been very eager to inspire others at the workshop. She's been very good at communicating what her views were when it comes to work.
Any challenges in having Johanna as an intern in your company?
Not really, none whatsoever. It's been really easy with her. And I believe what we have in this project is that you prepare the young people in a very good way to get out into the world. They're prepared very well. This is what this project is about.
Which advice can you give to companies?
Try it. My goodness, try it. Go on. No, seriously, it's been a good experience, and let's spread the word. There is so much we can benefit. You get so much in your baggage.
And I know this is a little bit of a success story, because I know that Johanna has been for you and in your company for the last 3 months as an intern, but now you have an ordinary employment for Johanna for the next couple of weeks. Isn't that right?
Yep.
That is absolutely true. We were lucky enough, we had the privilege to have her accept to stay in a few months more before she goes to Germany to continue her studies.
Very much, Stina Borgström from Autophone. Just one last question for you, Johanna. We just heard that Stina was telling us that you're going to be further educated. What's your plans for the next weeks and in the future to come?
So for the next weeks at Autophone, I'm in a little project where I've been handled the responsibility that I myself am constructing or renewing, updating a little tool, basically, for one of the steps they need to produce the pickups, which is kind of interesting because it includes everything I've learned in school. And after that, I will go to Hamburg and study media technician. So I will work with electronics a bit more, and also audio systems and optical systems.
Okay, thank you very much for you both, Stina Borgström and Johanna Jünk. Now we will be introduced to an example of cross-border education. Freja Briansdottir from Denmark is an electrician apprentice in a German electrician company owned by Frank Møller. And I will first of all welcome to you both. And first, Frank Møller, I want to ask you, how has it been to have a Danish apprentice in your electrician company? But Frank Møller, how did you come in contact with this Freja Briansdottir?
It was the Håndværkskammer and IHK, Mrs. Olson, she made for the contact. Now the Håndværkskammer facilitates the exchange.
Mr. Frank Møller, what has it been for you to be in this? How has it been for you to have a Danish apprentice in your company? Have you learned anything particularly about Denmark, or what could she contribute with?
Well, I learned that vocational training in Denmark is quite different. In vocational school, it's more practical work compared to us here in Germany. And it was quite nice to get to know about her strengths. And she was in her second apprentice year, and she was much better than our own German apprentices. She was far ahead of them.
And how did you see that?
She used her own brain. She was able to think along She was not dependent on getting orders. She thought about things herself and got things done by herself, by her own decisions.
And now I want to turn to introduce you to Per Bæk Grønning, the manager of Jobcenter Lolland, and the word is yours.
Thank you.
Well, my mother language is Danish. I was supposed to say something about the movement between Danish and German labor market, as it were, and how we as authorities deal with that. And when preparing today, it made me think we started back in 2006. That's 15 years ago. And I was standing in Lübeck. I was talking to some colleagues of mine, some co-workers. We needed people to go on work and to go to work in Denmark. There was high unemployment in Germany on the other hand. So idea was, why can't we support the cross-border thought? Why not have craftsmen come from Germany to Denmark? So we started doing practical work. We held some information meetings, and it got into a vast success. My goodness, so many Germans who wanted to come to Denmark and work. We were so overwhelmed, and we were overwhelmed by Danish employers who wanted to have German employees with them. And ever since, it's been working smoothly. Not that quickly, not that swiftly, because in 2008, we had, everybody knows it, the financial crisis. That was not so good. So labor market was suffering from that, but we kept being in touch with our colleagues at the Arbeitsagentur work agency in Lübeck labor agency, and we've kept that contact alive to this day. And what we're doing today is we consult job seekers in Germany and Denmark alike. We consult them on the options of getting a job in the neighboring country. So it goes both ways, literally. We inform people, we consult them, and if there is job seekers who are interested in getting a job in the neighbor country, then we start dealing with the practical challenges. We're very digitalized in Denmark, but we're not digitalized cross-border, not with Germany. So we need to have a handheld line, as it were, meaning if a German job seeker wants a job, our German colleagues phone us, and then we try to match the requirement that the company in, say, Lolland-Falster has, and vice versa. If somebody from Lolland-Falster wants a job in Germany, our German colleagues try to match the requirements that German companies might have. That's a bit, yeah, that's not so easy, but exchange of information, IT-wise, cross-border, that is not as easy as it should be, in my opinion. So from country to country. Now, another experience is this. When we talk about going from country to country, it works well with craftsmen and the non-skilled area. You know, typically a Dane will see, I'm not that good in German, but I will try anyway. And you notice, hey, I am able to speak with my colleagues in Germany. Wow, I didn't know. And vice versa, the same. A German person comes to Denmark, and what happens? Well, it is possible to deal with the colleagues. The Danish colleagues may speak some German, or we all speak a bit of English, or maybe the new German colleague can speak a little bit of Danish. There are so many examples of that. And let me just mention two companies which I have dealt with a bit in more detail. They have this to this very day. I have met some Germans who worked there. They came to Falster, the island of Falster, back in, I think it was 2007. I've spoken to some of them. And what's interesting to me, what is striking to me, German workforce is still commuters. They commute back and forth. They go to Denmark for 4 days and then they go back to their families in Germany. They commute back and forth. And when you ask them, then they mention the other challenges that we have between the countries. One is the difference between the tax system and the taxation system. We pay very high taxes in Denmark. You pay less tax in Germany. Taxes are lower in Germany. What you forget is there may be other expenditures that are paid for by German employers. In Denmark, it is paid for by the tax all of us pay. So there are technical issues that make a difference. It may be frightening or look frightening for a German colleague moving to Denmark. Oh God, those high taxes. But it's what even more frightening. think what a car costs in Denmark. It costs 2 to 3 times as much in Denmark as the same car would cost in Germany. Excise taxes, and that also constitutes a problem, but we cannot really help that. We cannot alleviate that here in the Fremont Belt days. But what we could do something about is another barrier that many people talk about time and time again, the language barrier. That can be helped. I think the language barrier is mainly within ourselves because we are neighbors. And if you come from northern Germany and go to Lolland-Falster or the island of Zealand or southern Jutland, North Schleswig, or a Dane that goes to Germany, you will notice, hey, it is impossible to communicate. You may not be perfect, but then you use your hands and fingers and nodding heads, and it turns out that it worked quite well. And I think that quite a lot of young persons experience the same thing. Mommy was worried, will he or she be able to go to a different country? But they are able to. It turns out time and time again. Next thing, next difference is the work culture. Yes, I mean, I've heard Germans say, oh, in Denmark, they are a bit more, if we can't make it today, we'll make it tomorrow. Mañana mentality. It's not quite true, actually, but we have a different work culture compared to the one in Germany. That is true. However, I see that as an exciting challenge, going to a different country, trying to cope with new challenges. I see that positively. We have many funny examples, actually, of a craftsman who is extremely skilled, be it that they come from Denmark or Germany, it doesn't matter. But starting a piece of work is done differently in Denmark and Germany. The starting points are different. And it may look like, oh, he or she is not so skilled after all, but it only has to do with differences in culture. It is a different way of working, a different way of being a colleague. But nobody is worse or better than the other, and we do whatever we can to help job seekers who want to go cross-border. We do whatever we can. And I would like to give my regards from Codan Medical, from Rugby Howe, 155 colleagues there, and 20 of them are commuters from Germany. And the company asked me to say, hey, if there are more German commuters who want to work with us, we have open jobs. So why not take that as a little appetite?
For this brief. Just one question for you. You have talked a lot about the challenges there are in the region here in Femern Belt region to get it to be one united labor market and educational market. But I know that you also have examples for where you have solved the challenges in the educational market.
Yes, I think referring to what we call the apprentices, where we have solved it between Denmark and Germany. I've been in a workshop where we should do the Arbejdsmarked Charter for the Øresund region. And there I heard that the challenges for apprentices between Sweden and Denmark, they are not solved yet. But as you know, from the start of this session, we have solved some of the problems, not all of them, but some of the problems. And there are young people going from one country to another. They will do their apprentices in Germany and their education in Denmark or otherwise. So we have done something in our region that others, they haven't finished that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Per Grønning, for this interesting brief. I think that we just try to turn to Freja Briansdottir, who is an example of just what you told us now, Per Grønning, because Freja Briansdottir is an apprentice in a German company, as we heard earlier, and is going to school in Denmark. Do we have Freja Briansdottir with us?
Yes, you do. I'm here.
Having you with us, Freja. Just shortly from you, how is it for you to work and be an apprentice in Germany and go to school in Denmark?
It was really a nice experience to try those first weeks of actually working in the company. And I've been learning a lot. I've been learning a lot of culture and a lot of people and a lot of language. So it's of course hard to have all of those languages spinning around your head all the time. But the more that I use it, the more easy it gets to kind of like switch from the one language to the other.
But what about your education in Germany and in a German company versus if you have had to take your education in a company in Denmark? Is there any kind of differences you see?
There is a lot of differences because much of it is actually industrial work that we do primarily. And to be honest, that's way bigger and way more interesting. I've never seen so many different kinds of work that I've been seeing in the firm that I'm working in right now.
So if you want, if you have an if you want to give a good advice for other young people who maybe want to work in Germany, what could that be?
Go into it and try your best. Like language learning, you can learn it. I learned it in 3 weeks, like not entirely in 3 weeks, but I learned more and more. I was speaking fluently in 6 months. So by now, 2.5 years later, I'm speaking quite good German, and I'm like keep on working, do it. Don't be afraid of it. Do your best.
Just do your best. Thank you very much, Brian Stottier, for being with us. And now we are, for the last about 15 minutes, we'll take a look at the future, because how will the labor market in the Fehmarn Belt region look like in 15 years from now? To tell us about what we can expect in the future, we have Associated Professor and PhD Finn Sommer from Roskilde Universitets Center with us. Welcome, Finn, and the scene is yours.
Thank you very much. My name is Finn Sommer, and I am a researcher at university. I've been in quite a few projects where we worked in qualifying German and Danish young people for the regional labor market, to up-qualify them. We try to qualify them for a more cohesive labor market in the Fehmarn Belt region. That's our goal. Our most recent project that we concluded last year, that's what I will say something about, and I will tell something about the ideas that are behind the way we try to qualify the young people in. Because the young people we try to train, they are supposed to be in the labor market for the next 30, 40 years. And if we don't qualify them for tomorrow, but for yesterday, no, we have to qualify them for now and for the future labor market, not for yesterday's. But what will the labor market in the Fehmarn Belt region look like in the future? Could I have some slides, please? Yes, what will the labor market in the Fehmarn Belt region look like in the 15 years, and how to qualify socially vulnerable young people for the labor market of the future? Interpreter just read the two headlines. Mr. Sommer cannot see the slides, apparently. So, back to him. Let me start with the JUMP project. And the target group of the JUMP project, we wanted to qualify students in preparatory secondary education that are students who cannot immediately start vocational training and who cannot find a job. That is the target group. So we're talking about young persons, young individuals that can be called, well, socially vulnerable. They are a group of socially vulnerable people. Okay, next step, please. That's it. The partners to the project. We have cooperated with 2 German educational institutions in Lübeck and Nibel, and 2 Danish educational institutions in Nykøbing Falster and in Køge, Zealand, and 2 universities also, Roskilde University and Europe University in Flensburg in northern Germany. Now, and as part of the project, we tried to look at the course of lives of these pupils and these students, because to have a successful transition from school to vocational life, that has to do with the factors, the biographies, their social biography, the way they've grown up, the family background, their experience. How is it to learn in school, outside school? How do I deal with that? Work experience, if any. And we've publicized some of these reports given by the pupils. And one of the reports is Sigrid's. Sigrid is Danish. She's 19 years old. We have a timeline. She's born in a Copenhagen suburb. She called herself a ghetto kid. She has 5 siblings, and she tells us she lived with her father, her stepfather, mother, stepfather, and 2 stepsisters. But she didn't do well. She told us she was raped as a child. She was not good in primary school either. She was mobbed in school. Outside school, she gets friends, but they're older than her. She starts smoking weed. They start shoplifting. They have a crime career. It all escalates, and it ends by them burning down houses. So she's compulsory evicted. She's taken away from her family. She goes to a place for young criminals. She calls herself a voluntary compulsory removal. She wants to go away from her friends and the school. She changes her life. She breaks up with her family. She breaks up with her old friends. After primary school, she starts a vocational training, a basic vocational training. It is within the construction work, and she wants to become a carpenter. She's the only girl, and there's 65 boys in this apprenticeship. Still, she's doing well professionally, and she also starts doing well, being more, she's better in reading books and stuff. She gets good grades along the way, but then things go wrong. She gets thrown out of school, and she doesn't get why. She doesn't know why. She's not clever enough, they say. She doesn't have social competence enough. She doesn't understand. She gets good grades in her vocational training, and she claims, I can speak with everybody, with all colleagues. So she goes to a production school, meaning a preparatory education. And she says, the municipality forced me to do this. It was not my choice, she says. She works at a carpentry. She also works in the music workshop. She also works in a different place where they collect things that are repaired and then given to third world countries. Also work she's done. She loves being at that production school. In her leisure time, she teaches herself to play music and use IT systems. She teaches herself and she teaches to others. And she also goes to karate courses in her leisure time. But when the government, they cut on the funds, she goes to demonstrations and she becomes a leader of the demonstrations and becomes a well-known person. Now, within our project, we have a future camp where Danish and German apprentices work together. A great experience for her, socially and professionally. And she starts a Facebook group for the Danish and German apprentices that were on this camp. That gives her courage. She wants to do an internship in Germany. Professionally, it is a success. She's very good working with wood. Socially, it is a two-sided thing. She looks for internship as a carpenter in Jutland, everywhere. She can't find a job. She can't find an internship. Her own explanation, I'm too old, I'm too expensive. I have a driver's license and I'm a good professional, she claims. Still, she can't find an internship. When we speak with her, she's going to an internship in a reuse company. She had been in a reuse company before, and that was a good experience for her. And she wants to become a truck driver one of these days. That was the story of Sigrid in short words. And it's one of the many stories we've published from young people. And what is it we can learn from these reports? We get a perspective of their life, their mobility in labor. We learn something about their dreams, their successes, their challenges. And we see and we conclude It is not always a straight line they have in their apprenticeship. They try this and then they drop out and they try something different. We see that time and time again, but there are so many different barriers. There are personal barriers. Take Sigrid's report. There are social barriers and there's also institutional and social barriers. Just take the fact that you cannot find internship. So many things give you a very limited horizon and limit your horizon for my future. What can I do? Many things limit you. On the other hand, Sigrid has so many resources. She's a good professional. She taught herself to use IT. She has arranged some protests, a demonstrator. So listen to what they have to say. Listen to the students. What goes on inside their head mentally, socially, when they try to orient themselves towards other goals, when they try to get an adult life and put their old life away. What do they experience along the way? And how does it feel to go on internship abroad? Also a very important question. Let me mention a few things we've worked with within this project, how we have tried to qualify the young people. Next slide, please. Future camps. That was a bit too far. A bit back, please. We have tried inspirational visits in the neighboring country. We have tried to facilitate internships in the neighboring country. That's what we've done. And we have tried to facilitate future camps for pupils and tutors alike. And we asked the apprentices and pupils and students, give us some advice. What is a good life? What is good work like for you? So we asked them, we asked the apprentices, and the suggestions they came up with, we have done big wall newspapers and tried to carry some of the ideas out. We also did practical workshops in these future camps where the apprentices worked with something that was meaningful to them, recycling, upcycling, skateboards, for instance, skateboards provided by a German company for free. One example of some of the ideas that the apprentices came up with. Make cooperation with the companies and include us in short-term activities that the companies had going on anyway. The apprentices said, why don't we cook? We can cook food. We can show the employers we're able to work. We can work well. We can demonstrate that we want work, that we want a job, that we want to work. So that was something we could realize with a local trade association and two companies. And the apprentices had a chance to cook and to facilitate the customers in marketplaces. So that made two German apprentices get an internship in Denmark. That's what it led to. An alternative way to contact the companies. We made events, cycling along the Danish-German border, visiting companies, production schools, etc. We also had the chance to work with a disused, decommissioned primary school, a school that was not in use anymore. And we asked the apprentices, please design and rebuild the school into an accommodation and cycle tourism service, an accommodation place for cycling tourists. Here we have an example of a room that they have designed it. They call it Room of Possibilities. And they used reused, recycled materials to make tables, chairs, and mirrors. And they also made a garden outside because they said the tourists, they should have herbs for their lunch and for their dinner at night. So they made a herbal garden. Let me remind the following. The activities we have done have been in cooperation with apprentices, students that cannot immediately start vocational training and cannot find a job. It's the most vulnerable trainees and young people. They have a heavy baggage to carry, as we say in Danish, just like Sigrid. For us, it was important to make activities that were meaningful, give them different experiences, take their ideas seriously, try to promote the pupils' professional social integration into the Danish-German labor market. And we also cooperated with the employers to carry all these things through. In Denmark, we have around about 50,000 that have no education. We have 130,000 who are publicly subsidized, and we lack a lot of workforce in Denmark and Germany alike. And all forecasts say we need skilled professionals in the years to come. So we need to educate people for the future labor market. But what is that labor market like? Well, we see in the coming years, there will be public and private investment in the labor market because of the green transformation. Green transformation will change production, transport, energy consumption. It will change all areas of our production and the way we work. It will change everything. At the same time, we are on the way to have a circular economy. The digitalization will play a big role in production, products management services, resource planning. Because the Fehmarn Belt region, this green transition will not only be about green transition, it will also be about the quality of green transition and the transition to climate neutral economy. Because we are a region where workforce is very expensive. So we need to change the labor market, especially those, there will be trades and industries that use less labor force. We need innovation, startups, new know-how needs to be made accessible to the employers, to the companies. Retraining and upskilling the workforce, need for skilled laborers, technicians, specialists, and we need strategic initiative with cooperation between regional authorities, sectors, labor markets, organizations, and dedicated training institutions. Luckily, the Fehmarn Belt regions has some strengths to carry through with this transition. We have a culture of cooperation between the companies, between authorities and companies, companies versus companies. And we have companies that are very innovative and are very flexible and adaptable and innovation. Green transition. We saw that in the Corona crisis, and we have trust and faith in the public authorities. And that is quite important when we talk about transition. So some of the stories we have published, like cigarettes, for instance, we have used it in an in-service training and up-qualifying of trainers and tutors. These students' stories about upbringing experiences, and it is used both in preparatory education, university, and vocational training. And you can learn more about the publications we have had at the Roskilde University website. And we also have them here. Look at them at the website. Thanks very much for your attention.
Finn Sommer, I just have one question for you, and that's just about, you pointed out some of all the issues we have to be aware of in the region to be one common region in the Fehmarn Belt region at the labor market and education market. Can you point out just one of the most important challenges we have in the region and how do we solve it?
Yeah.
Let me put it this way. The most important thing is for us to develop the region through practical cooperation. You cannot develop a region from the outside. If you want cooperation, it needs to be a meaningful cooperation between companies, between educational institutions, or between the private enterprise and educational institutions. That is immensely important. At the same time, why don't we think about strategically, future-oriented? There are some areas where we see now already, this is coming, this is way ahead. Why don't we start it right now? In Germany, you have hybrid energy in Germany, and that has its potentials. So why not strategically settle for that? It could be clusters between companies. So there are various areas, charging stations for electric vehicles,
and these changes you're talking about, which level does have to take part in these changes? Is it the politicians who has to do it, or is it the educational level, or who is it who has to address this?
The politicians will have a big task here and a lot of work. And we will also see financial policy play a big role in Germany and Denmark. Financial policy needs to drive the transition, because otherwise we cannot make it to the climate goals that the politicians have set. So there has to be put money into this, but how is this framework to be set up? How is the money to be used? There will also be private funds in the coming years, in the years to come. So it needs to be practical. Cooperation will have to be practical. With that outset, the politicians make the frames. They can take away administrative barriers and bureaucracy. That will be up to the politicians, but it needs to be driven on a practical level. And one of the big questions will be, how do we get the whole population involved in this development? And how do we take all people with us, including Sigrid and other young people who have a tough time?
Finn Sommer, Associated Professor and PhD from Roskilde Universitetscenter, from this very interesting brief. Thank you very much, Finn. And now we have the latest hour, just a little more than an hour, revealed that there are a lot of possibilities to work and educate across borders in the Fehmarn Belt region. And we have also heard that the Fehmarn Belt region will be more as one labor market in the future. I apologize for the technical problems we have had for the last hour. I hope that you will accept that. And if you want to explore more about the Rebel project, please visit the homepage of rebel.eu, and there you can explore a lot more about this project to get the region, the Fehmarn Belt region, to be one labor market in the future. Thank you very much for watching.